Hello and welcome to the International Daily Roundup by People's Dispatch, where we bring you major news developments from around the world. Our headlines: Armenia and Azerbaijan continue fighting despite ceasefire declaration. Protesters demand release of political activists in Gilgit-Baltistan in Pakistan. Venezuelan National Constituent Assembly approves anti-blockade bill. United Nations agency raises concerns of increasing poverty among Palestinian refugees. And Guatemalan women hold demonstrations across the country against femicide. In our first story, on Sunday, a day after they announced a truce in Moscow, both Armenia and Azerbaijan accused each other of attacking civilian areas. On Saturday, both the parties had agreed to halt hostilities in exchange for the bodies of people killed during the two-week-long clashes and swap prisoners. Azerbaijan claimed that within hours of the ceasefire, Armenian forces shelled civilian areas of its second-largest city, Ganja, which killed near 9 people and wounded 33. In retaliation, Azerbaijan claimed that its forces carried out air raids against the Armenian forces in Nagorno-Karabakh, which is a disputed area. Armenia denied allegations of its forces attacking civilian areas in Azerbaijan and instead accused Azerbaijan of attacking civilian areas in Karabakh, including its capital Stepanakert. Armenia claims that at least 5 civilians have been killed in the Azeri attacks post the announcement of the ceasefire. The ceasefire was achieved after a marathon meeting under Russian mediation in Moscow. The first direct contact between both the parties was a result of international pressure on both sides to end the fight and look for a political solution. The current round of clashes between Armenia and Azerbaijan erupted on September 27th after Azeri forces tried to recapture its territories from Armenian control. Both the countries have been clashing over the Nagorno-Karabakh region and its adjacent region for decades. In our next story, on Sunday, scores of activists of the Gilgit-Baltistan Youth Alliance gathered outside a Karachi press club in Pakistan. They were demanding the release of 14 imprisoned activists from the northern Gilgit-Baltistan region. Protesters claimed that the demonstrations will continue until the authorities release all the political prisoners. The political prisoners have been charged for alleged anti-terrorism acts for causing riots in August 2011 in the Hanza Valley of Gilgit-Baltistan. 2 civilians, Afzal Beg and his father Sherullah Beg, had died after the police opened fire at a demonstration. Those arrested for the riots include prominent activists Babajar and Iftikhar Karbalai. According to reports, protesters demanded that the federal government make public the judicial inquiry report into the incident and threatened to campaign for the boycott of the upcoming elections in the region if demands are not met. Earlier last week, hundreds of people had participated in a 2-day sit-in protest at the main Aliabad area of Hunza district in Gilgit-Baltistan, expressing solidarity with the 14 activists who continue to remain imprisoned. In our next story, on October 8th, the National Constituent Assembly of Venezuela, in an extraordinary plenary session, approved the anti-blockade bill presented by President Nicolas Maduro at the end of last month. The law will provide the Bolivarian government with mechanisms to face the impact of the commercial blockade, economic and financial persecution, and other unilateral sanctions imposed by the United States on Venezuela. The president of the ANC, Diosdado Cabello, stated that the law is an instrument to shield the economy of the country from the constant onslaught of the US government. He emphasized that there is a need to adopt bold measures to confront the constant aggressions and attempts of economic suffocation in order to guarantee the continuity of the revolutionary process in the country. The anti-blockade law will promote actions to improve the nation's income and create incentives to reactivate economic activity and productive alliances. In addition, it will allow the creation of mechanisms to attract large-scale investments and make the state's shareholding more flexible in joint ventures. According to an online survey published on Patria digital platform, 89.7% of Venezuelans expressed their support for the approval of the anti-blockade law in the face of damage caused by US aggression. The bill will be passed to the Council of the State so that the body can request the Constitutional Chamber of the Supreme Court of Justice for its assessment on the constitutionality of the law. In our next story, the head of the United Nations Relief and Works, Filipe Lazzarini, has raised concerns about the growing rate of poverty among the Palestinian diaspora in the Middle East. He stated that the Palestinian diaspora spread across Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, Gaza and elsewhere are suffering because of the pandemic. Referring to reports from UNRWA staff in the enclave, he said that in Gaza people are going through the garbage in order to find food and that more people are fighting to provide 1 or 2 meals a day to their families. The financial crisis heightened in 2018 when Donald Trump cut $300 million of annual donations to the agency. Trump's aid cut led to a wave of exceptional solidarity around UNRWA, he said, with other global donors filling the shortfall. In fact, 2018 was UNRWA's most successful money-raising year for its core budget in the past 5 years. UN officials had earlier raised concerns that they not only fear the virus spreading unchecked in overcrowded camps where families cannot social distance, but also unemployment and poverty induced by the pandemic. The spread of the coronavirus pandemic in refugee camps across West Asia, home to many of the 5.6 million Palestinians supported by UNRWA, has been viewed as an existential threat by the population. Adding to that, Israel's possible annexation of the occupied West Bank threatens to stifle UNRWA's work there. On Saturday, Guatemala's feminist organizations held a protest in several cities of the country against the violence on women which has risen during the COVID-19 pandemic. Paying tribute and demanding justice for the women who have been raped, murdered and disappeared in the last 2 decades, dozens of women gathered outside municipal buildings in various cities. The organizers stated that they speak for the 4 women who disappear every day, for all the 77,847 girls and adolescents between the age of 10 and 19 who are already mothers. Similar mobilizations took place in various cities across the country. Marches, songs and candles were lit in memory of the murdered women. More than 200 women were killed in the first 8 months of the year in the Central American nation, and more than 3,000 women and girls have been killed since 2015, according to human rights groups which track government statistics. That's all we have time for today. We'll be back tomorrow with more news from the world. Until then, keep watching People's Dispatch.